Today me and my best friend GR set out early in the morning for a hunt. We took 2 terriers with us. One off of Cocker's Lucky bred back to Murdoch's Gypsy whose name is Swagger, and another one off of Weaver's Bones bred back to Roach's Penny named Dempsey. Swagger is a very seasoned hunter that has hunted in 11 different states to date, while Dempsey is a fairly green hunter and only been on a couple pieces of query to date. We set out at about 7:30 in the morning and made it to the hunting site around 8:30. We followed the railroad tracks down about a quarter mile and then free casted both terriers into the woods. Coming down off of the railroad tracks was a steep embankment. Once we made it down, we worked our way over the hills throughout the woods. We came upon a medium-sized stream after going over a few hills. This was an area that had a sudden switch from pine trees to trees that grew leaves. These areas seem to house more game here in Georgia. Once we made it to this area, we found quite a few sets, but no one seemed to be home. We decided to continue through the woods combing the area. Having no luck following the stream to a decent-sized lake, we decided to head back towards the railroad tracks. At the base of the embankment for the railroad tracks there were many trees that were cut down and left on the side. We casted Swagger into these falling trees and sat back for a while. At first we could hear him moving throughout the branches, and then it went quiet. At this point in time we sat back for a little bit longer and listened. After 3 to 5 minutes of absolutely no sound, we knew that he must have been in the ground. We took our locator and got a mark of 1.8 meters while standing in the center of the brush pile. So at this point in time we decided to start clearing things. When we cleared things deep enough that I was standing on the actual ground, I could feel the battle underneath me. At this point in time we had a .5 reading on the location box. So I started to dig. After just 3 minutes of digging we broke through to Swagger with a mouthful of fur. As we continued opening the pipe we identified the query to be groundhog, which Swagger finished in the ground. After pulling the groundhog and Swagger from the ground we had a look over Swagger, who seemed to be just fine, and we decided to cast him for more query. We located 2 more groundhogs within the next hour. Both digs were very easy, less than 2 feet deep. We decided to pack it up and head home, so we worked our way back to the railroad tracks in the direction of the car. Of course, on the way back to the car Swagger had to comb the area to make sure all loose ends are tied. All of the sudden Swagger disappeared to the right side of the railroad tracks. I called for him. He's normally very good with his recall. But he would not come. I finally was able to lay eyes on him as he was working his hardest to get into something. As we made our way down to where he was, we found him at the base of a tree that had 2 entrances. There was a terrible smell of death around the area. Swagger started digging at one of the entrances and pulled out the remainders of a possum. At this point in time we knew there was a fox underneath this tree. Swagger was able to squeeze in an incredibly tight spot and end up in the center of the roots working. The digging was very difficult as we had to excavate the entire root system of the tree. At about an hour of digging we broke through to what was obviously used as bedding for the fox. We could hear the dog working but could not set eyes on him still. After another 45 minutes of work without the ability to see our dog, I phoned my wife and told her to go to Home Depot and pick up at least 5 Sawzall blades and bring both of my Sawzall with all of the batteries that we owned, along with smoothies made by my daughter, water, and extra snacks, thinking this is going to be a long one. Of course we kept doing our best to dig until my wife made it to us. After another 20 minutes of work we could see Swagger and his quarry, which we were able to pull from the ground. Considering all the work Swagger had done this day, he took relatively little damage. At this point in time me and GR put a leash on the dog, bagged the quarry and headed for the car. As soon as we cleared the wooded area my wife bypassed us for perfect timing. Successful day and the dogs made it back.